The next tab is the Questions tab. Here is where I will enter the correct answers, and I can also change the value of each question. On the screen, I can also add a question, so if I have 10 questions and changed my mind and wanted to add another question to my test, I can go to the Questions tab and click on Add Question, and it will add it to the bottom of my test. I can also remove questions here. I hover over the question I want to delete and click on that minus sign. Then I click on OK. Let's say my first two questions are multiple choice questions. All I would do here is enter the correct answer. If my question required the student mark 2 responses to get the question correct, then I would change my answer and I would include both required responses. So for question number 1, in order for the student to earn their 1 point, they will need to mark A and B. Let's say I had a question where there were 2 possible answers. So in that case, I'll put a comma in between them. So for question number 2, they can select B or C to earn the 1 point for question number 2. If these were matching, then I would enter the correct answer here also, just one answer. With matching, you have up to 9 responses, so your selections can go up to 9 choices. If these were true and false questions, then I would just mark T is the correct answer or F is the correct answer. When you do true-false questions and matching, you'll need to visit the Sheet Designer in the Advanced tab so that you can change what the answer sheet will look like. By default, it will display A, B, C, D, and E. If you're using matching, you're going to want to change those to the letters that you're using on your test, and if it's true-false, you'll want to change them to T and F. Let's pretend number 9 is a rubric question. That would mean it could be a free response or some type of performance task where I will grade students on a rubric. So to mark that here on the Questions tab, I'll have to check this first box to indicate that it's a rubric question. Instead of writing the correct answer here, I'm going to enter the highest score that students can earn on the rubric. So if I have a 1 through 4 rubric, the highest that they can earn on my rubric is 4. The way I have my rubric question set up here is that it's only worth 1 point. So if the student earns a 4 on the rubric, they will earn 1 point towards their overall score on this assessment. I can change that. Instead of 1, I can enter any number. I'm just going to enter 4. That would mean if a student earns 4 on the rubric, they can earn 4 points towards their overall score. If the student earned 2 points on my rubric, then they'll only earn 2 points on their overall score on their assessment. The difference between a rubric question and any of these other types of questions is that with a rubric question, there's a range. So students can earn anywhere from 1 through 4 points. Actually, they can earn anywhere from 0 to 4 points. With the questions listed up here, let's say I change this to 4 points. Let's say question number 1 is very important to me, and if they get it correctly, they can earn 4 points. But if this is not a rubric question, they can only earn 4 points or 0 points. Only a rubric will allow you to give partial credit or a range of points. Anything that's not a rubric, they either get the full amount of points or they don't get any points at all. So if you have a question where you would like to give students partial credit for their answer, you will need to use the rubric. Rubrics don't have to be very complicated. They can be very simple. I can have a 2-point rubric where the students can earn 2 points. So if they got it correct, I'll give them the 2. If they have half of it correct, I can give them a 1. And if they didn't get it correct at all, I can just leave it blank and they'll earn 0. Another type of question is an open response question, like this one displayed here. In this case, the teacher doesn't want to give partial credit. They either got it correct or they didn't. So what you can do is, for question number 10, you can use Y and N. Yes, they got it correct. N for no, they got it incorrect. Because I didn't mark rubric, they're not going to get any partial credit. They'll get all the points or they won't get any of the points. What some teachers do, instead of marking Y for yes and N for no, they just know in their head that anytime I mark A, that means yes, they got it correct, and anytime I mark B, that means no, they didn't get it correct. That's okay to do as long as you know that that's how you're going to grade. The problem with that is if you share this assessment with another teacher and they don't know that they're supposed to enter A for yes and B for no, and they enter Y instead, well, that will be marked incorrect. I would rather use Y and N and go into the sheet designer and change those A's and B's to Y and N's. It's an extra step when creating the assessment that I think in the long run you'll get less problems when you begin entering scores. The last option you have here is extra credit. So let's say I want question number 10 to be extra credit. I want them to try to answer it, but if they don't get it correct, I don't want it to be counted against their grade. So I can mark this as extra credit.